welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons. And as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 talented and humorous performers who can display their talent with words and language as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And those 4 are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Fee Glover, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Tony Hawks. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me, it's Trudy Stevens. She's going to help me keep the score, and she will blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, growing bananas. Would you like to tell us something about growing bananas in just a minute, starting now?
To grow bananas, it usually takes about 9 months to get it from baby banana. I'd almost run out of things to say.
I'm not surprised. Tony, you challenge.
Yeah, I think he'd exhausted his entire knowledge on the subject, and then break down and hesitate.
Well, see what you can tell us about it, because you've got 56 seconds still available. Growing bananas, starting now.
I have never grown a banana in my life, but it has been an ambition of mine to do it, but living in a small flat makes it difficult in London. But I've now moved to Devon, where it's a perfect place to grow bananas.
Giles challenge.
It was like a tribute band to Paul Merton.
You know why I did that? I thought it's growing bananas, the subject, isn't it?
I think you could have had him for deviation.
Well,
this country's not a perfect place for growing bananas.
Oh, you haven't been to the little place where he is, the little oasis of sunshine.
Oh, right. Giles, you had a correct challenge. You get a point for that. And there are 39 seconds, Giles. Growing bananas, starting now.
Even the Dalai Lama has criticised me for name-dropping, but I have to share with you the fact that some years ago, the great Harry Belafonte took me to his banana farm, singing, "Yellow bird, way up a banana tree." The great Henry so sweetly showed me how you can make a curved yellow fruit turn into something that is scrumptious, delicious, and gives nourishment to the whole and entire family. Even coughing can be cured by a well-placed banana. You open the mouth, you shove it in, and then you cut off the end and you discover whether it says yes or no.
Tony, I'm glad you said.
Yeah, deviation, we're not learning anything at all.
I've got to explain to my listeners I've got a terrible cold. But thank you for explaining, Giles, as you went along what was happening to me. What was your...
My challenge was it was deviation from the subject, which is growing bananas.
I'm explaining to you how Harry Belafonte took me to his banana farm.
Giles, just let me finish the challenge, then you'll get... I know you're a politician, but let me finish, and then you'll have your turn, OK?
I'm glad you talked the length you did, because it gave me time to get my breath back. Oh, Tony, you've got in with 2 seconds to go.
Do we know why he's got in, Nicholas?
No.
No, exactly.
Because I was having a little coughing fit while he was talking. Tony, another point, 2 seconds. Growing bananas, starting now.
Put the soil, and then what you do on...
So, in this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Tony Hawks. And at the end of that round, he has 3 points. Giles has got 1, and the other 2 have yet to score. Tony, we'd like you to take the next round, and it is the best part of my school days. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
The best part of my school days, well, this is difficult to identify. The problem with school is that they don't really teach you anything that's going to be useful to you later at life. For instance, when I was there, I had to do pottery. And since leaving, I haven't had one occasion when I've had to make a pot. Even in an emergency. So they should instruct you on things that are more practical, like how to put duvet.
Paul challenge.
I didn't.
Well, your light came on.
Oh, OK.
It was I who challenged.
You challenged, but Paul's light came on. Do you want the challenge or not?
Yes, I do.
Nicholas, is this another of these shows, Nicholas, where my light has actually been turned off for the duration?
Paul, what was your challenge?
Deviation. Well, he said they don't teach you anything useful at school. They do. They teach you to read, they teach you to
course
write,
they
they teach you
teach you.
mathematics.
And pottery is very useful indeed.
Can be, yeah, absolutely. So
I
deviation.
sense everyone's against me.
We are.
No, they just disagree with you, not against you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, we are actually against him.
I'm not.
You're the only one he'd like to have against him.
We don't have a lot of sex in just a minute.
It's not enough figure from our light entertainment history to be interviewed by the police, surely.
Do you think we've all deviated a little bit?
This is not the time or the
I'd
place.
rather like you to have a coughing fit right now.
Paul, a correct challenge, I think. And you have 36 seconds. The best part of my school days starting now.
The best part of my school days at Wimbledon College, the grammar school I went to that then became a comprehensive, was playing football at the end of the day. We'd gather around in the playground, the few working-class boys that would go into this educational establishment, and we'd kick a tennis ball around and run a...
Giles
A
challenge.
repetition of ball.
Yes.
Football's one word, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, incorrect challenge. Another point to you, Paul. And you have 21 seconds. The best part of my school days starting now.
As the teacher took me through the various vocabulary bits of Latin that he remembered from his past, I too regurgitated them back to him. Puella, I mean, remember means... Oh, I don't.
Giles challenge.
Can't remember it.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we interpret that as hesitation.
Absolutely.
So you've got the subject anyway, Giles, and it is the best part of my school days, and there are still 10 seconds available, starting now.
I went to a school called Bedales in Hampshire, which was founded by a man named John Hayden Badley, who was born in 1867.
Paul challenge.
Well, this is the history of the school, which is very nice, but it's not the subject, the best part of my school
Indeed,
days.
meeting him was the remarkable bit that I was just coming to.
You're doing it again. Let Paul finish.
Are you trying to usurp Nicholas's role?
No, he's coughing a bit, so I'm stepping in more than usual.
I think your challenge was legitimate.
Yes.
What? I don't know. Legitimate challenge? The best part of my school days was this wonderful founder.
But you
while
didn't
used
get to that bit.
You didn't
talked
get
about
to that
history.
No,
bit.
because you stopped me.
Giles,
No.
Yeah, you were bluffing it, Giles. Be honest. You thought I can rabbit on about this bloke for 10 seconds and get away with it, and you didn't.
Right.
And that lifts my spirits.
Well, maybe, Nicholas, later on, maybe the benefit of the doubt could come my way.
It could be, yes, indeed.
Oh, good.
Tony has contributed so much in the way of humour in this last round, I'm going to give him a bonus point. But, thank you. But it was a correct challenge from Paul, and there are 3 seconds still, Paul, on the best part of my school days, starting now.
I loved algebra. X plus Y equals 2 over...
So, Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point. He's now equal in the lead with Tony Hawks at the end of that round. Giles is following, and then Fee Glover. And Fee, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject we have now is listening to Radio 4. Oh, one of the joys of life. I think that was a sort of investment for my future there, but that's the subject, Fee, and you have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Listening to Radio 4, obviously it's something that all of us really enjoy doing. Me, myself, I'm a radio nut. I like to have lots of sets of the things around the house. I've got an enormous one in my study. It's international. Rick has got a tiny domestic one in the bedroom. And we like to wander around 24 hours a day listening to Radio 4. And the thing that really...
Giles, your challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, a
Yes.
hesitation. Well done. Well, you went for
Very good.
39 seconds left. You went for 20 seconds. 21 seconds, actually.
Thank you.
And Giles, a correct challenge. Another point to you. 39 seconds, Giles, listening to Radio 4, starting now.
Listening to Radio 4, it seems to have everything, but it does not have the equivalent of the potter's wheel.
Paul, challenge.
Doesn't have pictures.
That's what I was saying. It seems to have everything, but it does not have...
Giles.
This is outrageous! And of course, if you look at it through your computer, it does have pictures.
Giles, even if it wasn't a correct challenge, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And say an incorrect challenge, you have a point. You have 34 seconds still, listening to Radio 4, starting now.
I would love to have a program featuring the coughing of great men and women of our time. Wouldn't it be glorious to have heard Winston Churchill wheezing at us, taking a puff on his cigar, removing it, and then we would sense the spittle coming over the microphone? Ken Dodd God would be able to entertain us right through the night with glottal stop after...
Tony challenged.
This has got nothing to do with listening to Radio 4.
Yes, it's what I want to hear on Radio 4.
But can I finish?
Yeah.
Giles, you're talking about a prospective programme that has never been made. How can we be listening to that on Radio 4?
Because we're anticipating what we're going to be listening to on Radio 4.
Somewhere there's a commissioning editor thinking, bloody good idea.
It is. And we'll start with Nicholas, is what they're thinking. He could be the host.
And now Alfred Lloyd Tennyson with a head cold.
I think they all contributed something in that particular little pause there. So I'm going to give them all a point. And leave it with Gyles and say, listening to Radio 4, 13 seconds starting now.
When I first started listening to Radio 4, it was under the covers when I was a small boy on the wireless, as it was called.
Oh, Paul challenged.
Well, it wouldn't have been Radio 4 when Giles
No.
was...
No,
it
sorry,
was.
sorry. You should go on, off you go.
I was about to speak of the night that we moved from the home service to Radio 4, and the announcement was made by Alvar Liddell. I was there at the beginning, listening to Radio 4 right from the start. Nicholas, of course, was there at the beginning of the home service.
What was he?
But he was. He truly was. He was actually at Lord Reed's christening.
No, it is true. Nicholas does feature in several cave paintings.
Honestly, I must be a very good sport because I laugh as well. Well tried, Giles, justifying it. But I agree with Paul's challenge. I mean, if you were under the bedclothes at that age, it wouldn't be Radio 4, it would be the home service.
Yes.
So, Paul, correct challenge. 7 seconds still there. Listening to Radio 4, starting now.
When the Director General recently said that the British Broadcasting Corporation costs 40p a day, I thought that's wonderful. Some people would pay that for Radio 4 alone.
So Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's moved forward. He's 1 ahead of Giles Brandreth, and he's 2 ahead of Tony Hawks, and he's a few more ahead of Fee Glover. And Giles, we're back with you to begin.
Would Tony like to begin instead?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, yeah. I'll take him up.
All right, you've given it to Tony.
Yeah, thank you.
And it is... Tony, wearing a wig.
Right.
It's a tough subject anyway.
Yeah.
You
I'll
don't
probably
need
go
one.
for a minute now, just to piss Giles
60
off.
seconds as usual. Starting now.
Well, the thing about wearing a wig, it's a sign that you haven't got enough confidence in your external appearance, and it's what's going on.
Giles challenge.
This is not very interesting, is it?
No. But what is your challenge within the rules of just a
It's
minute?
homage to you.
52 seconds are still available for you, Tony, wearing a wig, starting now.
What is going on within is what really matters. One needn't worry about whether there is hair on top of your head. It is so
Giles.
Hesitation that time.
Yes, absolutely. 40 seconds. Wearing a wig. We're back with you for the subject which you should have started with, but you very foolishly gave it away. And 40 seconds available, wearing a wig, starting now.
Listening to this on Radio 4, people may not realise that I'm almost totally bald from top to toe. In the 1960s, this was a problem for me because hirsute chests were the order of the day. And therefore, I got a Pex wig with matching underarm toupees so that when I went on holiday to Broadstairs and lay on the sand, I would look like Mr. Muscle himself. This was considered very attractive by my then girlfriend who became my wife, and when she saw me turning into one of the Prince Edward or Prince William...
Unfortunately, 2 princes.
Yes. And 7 seconds available for you, Paul, on wearing a wig, starting now.
As Judge Christmas Humphreys looked down at me and I realised my plea of guilty would take me no further than Wormwood Scrubs.
So Paul Merton was again speaking as a whistle when gained an extra point. He's moved forward. Tony Hawks and Giles Brandreth are equal in second place, and then Fee Glover following them. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now, interesting one, why geese fly in a V formation. I'd love to know why. Can you tell us, Paul?
Yeah.
In 60 seconds? starting now.
Geese fly in a V formation to tell other birds to flock off. It's a kind of very aggressive action in the air. They fly in a V because the goose in the front is the only one that knows the way. If they were to fly directly behind each other...
Tony, challenge.
There can't be a goose in the front if it's a V formation. There need to be two geese at the front.
No. There's one geese in the V
One,
formation. There's one.
One.
No, hang on. The V's the wrong way round. They don't fly... Do
They fly like that.
They fly. There's
Oh,
one.
yeah, you're
There's
absolutely
one, and
right.
It's like working with David Attenborough.
Yeah. I can see why you didn't learn very much at school. Yes, right. So, Paul, an incorrect challenge, another point, and 44 seconds are still available. Why geese fly in a V formation starting now.
It cuts down on the wind resistance. The head geese goes forward, and he looks and thinks, the wind is coming.
Tony, challenge.
Head goose.
I know it should be head goose. He said goose once. He didn't want to repeat it.
I don't care what problems he's got in there.
No, I said geese because I didn't want to say goose.
I know you did. I said that. Just said that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but
So there's too many repeats on the BBC.
But actually, Paul, to be fair, that was deviation.
It was
you can't,
deviation.
You can't have the head geese.
No.
It was a head goose.
Exactly.
So, Tony, you got in. 37 seconds, Tony, with you. Why geese fly in a V formation starting now.
You'll be surprised to hear I'm something of an expert on this subject. And the reason...
I'd be astonished. I withdraw my challenge.
No, you needn't. Well, give it to Fee instead.
Give it a fee.
Oh, OK.
Right.
Yes, happy to take it, happy to take it.
Yeah.
Fee, 32 seconds on why geese fly in a V formation starting now.
Well, I presume they do it simply because they can, and very much like the red arrows, they'd like to show off to other bird forms that they can do something that no other flappy, winged, feathered
Keep going!
friends could possibly
Keep
do.
going,
The only
guys.
thing that separates them from the amazing aeronautical display team who you crane your necks to see and nearly fall over every single
Darling,
time.
it's not
they
good
go
radio.
past
Come
you.
back. So somehow Fee Glover kept going till the whistle went, with a little help from the chairman, and you move forward. You're still in fourth place, but you move forward.
Thank you.
And Tony, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is 3D printing. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Ordinary printing is hard enough to do, let alone 3D printing. And the reason for this, you may not know it, is that printers have personalities and emotions. And they do not like it if you go slightly out of the room and leave them to do all that printing, because they cough stuff out and they hit printer error button on their thing and...
Paul
I'm sorry,
Chance.
I'm worried about this phrase going slightly out of the room.
You're quite right. You can't go slightly out of the room. You can't go slightly. You either go out of the room or stay within the room.
I think so.
Yeah, well, that's what I think as well. So
Well,
you've
that's
got-
what matters.
Well, if I can give you the benefit of the doubt later, I will.
No props.
Paul, another point. 38 seconds. 3D printing starting now.
Last year I went slightly on holiday to California. Who buzzed then? Who buzzed? This is real. This is from the heart, this stuff.
Unless you left a leg behind, I'm having you on that.
But you've changed your mind now.
Well, it's easy to go slightly out of the room than slightly on holiday.
Paul, I said I'd give you the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
He had it before on the slightly out of the room.
Yeah.
34 seconds, Tony. 3D printing starting now.
I did a 3D print of some geese flying in V formation. And the extraordinary thing is, why they do it is they try to do the S form, but...
Giles?
Hesitation.
Absolutely, yes. 24 seconds, Giles. Another point to you. You tell us something about 3D printing starting now.
Now, I genuinely know something about this subject because I met Chuck Hall in 1984, the man who invented 3D printing. And through him, I am one of the first people in the country to have a complete set of 3D printers in my house and have created the royal family out of paper so that I can sit at breakfast with Her Majesty the Queen, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, and even...
Paul
There's a
Giles.
bit of stumble there after Duke of Edinburgh. Did you hear
No,
that?
no, it was respect.
Was it? What, to slur his name?
That's the way you talk when royalty are about. You talk a bit like that.
Do you?
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Giles. and say it was an incorrect challenge. And I'll tell you one of the reasons I'm doing it is there's only half a second to go. So half a second, Gyles, on 3D printing, starting now.
3D printing is absolutely fabulous.
Well done.
So Giles Brandreth speaking as the whistle went then. Gained an extra point. Is now equal with Paul Merton in the lead. Tony Hawks is only 1 point behind, and a few points behind them is Fee Glover. And Fee, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject now is the Victoria Falls. Tell us something about those amazing falls in this game, starting now.
I flew over the Victoria Falls in a helicopter, and please don't buzz in and say it's absolutely impossible for me to take that form of transport, because I did. I wasn't actually the pilot, but we were filming a television programme. We had an incredible vista of the Victoria Falls, and in order to film it properly, and here, if anybody is a health and safety expert, you might want to just put your fingers in your ears, we actually withdrew the side of the vehicle that we were flying in order for me to peer out and do what's known in the televisual industry as a piece to camera. So I was there, strapped in. There's a gentleman in the front who seriously is worried for my future here. I am in a safety belt, and I am hanging out of one side of this incredible chopper-esque type contraption when we veer to... I was just veering. That's all I was just veering. It takes a while to veer.
Fee, you made your living from radio, but you're
Yes.
so utterly visual when you talk. I mean, all the
Yes.
gestures you were making, describing the helicopter and leaning out, I mean, the audience were loving it, and you were giving us vivid pictures.
That's very kind of you to say
which
so.
is really radio,
Yes,
Madame.
I did survive the incident. Obviously, the cameraman didn't.
And who challenged Paul? Paul, you challenged why?
Hesitation.
Yeah,
Yes,
more than a hesitation,
enormous,
right.
Yes.
enormous, yes.
And Paul, you've got him with 3 seconds to
Oh,
go.
no.
But I think as Fee went for 57 seconds, she should get a bonus point.
That's very kind. That's very kind.
And Paul, it was a correct challenge, so we give it to you. And you have Victoria Falls starting now.
I visited Victoria Falls on my honeymoon. I was married to Bunty McGrew. What a woman she was.
Bunty McGrew, where did that come from?
I know.
No. Giles, we're back with you to begin. And before we start...
I'm
let's
not
tell you-
talking to you, Tony.
Tony, what's the secret?
I'll give you the situation as we move into the final round. Well, Fee, who's not played the game very much before, and was wonderful in her helicopter, she's struggling a bit in fourth place, but a very strong fourth place. But only a few points ahead of her is Tony Hawks, and Tony is 1 point behind Giles Brandreth, and he is 2 points behind Paul Merton as we move into the final round, and it's Giles' turn to begin, and the subject is a dream I've never told anyone about.
I'm happy not to buzz on this one.
And if you want to put it into correct English, you can say a dream about which I've never told anyone.
Oh. Ooh-hoo.
It's up to you. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Dare I tell you now, Nicholas, I wonder. A lot of people dream about Her Majesty the Queen, but I have dreams about her daughter-in-law, Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall. And they take the
Being
form...
challenged.
Well, I'm just feeling a bit unwell.
How on earth do I judge on that? Without being,
I wanted you to stop.
She's not only doing an exceptional job, she's a great fan of this show. And I'm sure
I'm
she-
not being rude about her. I just don't want to hear what it is that Giles' mind
Oh, I see. I'm
contains.
sorry, I
No,
misunderstood
it's
you.
not Camilla that's making me feel unwell.
Oh, it's Giles.
Not at all.
Well, I can understand that, yes. So,
I
all
think
right.
to protect her dignity,
Yeah,
somebody had to
protecting her,
buzz.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely, we must. 48 seconds for you.
Given that you are now a commander of the Order of the British Empire, I understand, Nicholas, the way that you have voted in this case, but I assure you there was nothing unwholesome in what I was about to share. I think the nation would have warmed a little bit to my story.
I'd like to hear from Fee on this subject.
We would all like to
A
hear from
dream I've never told anyone about. 48 seconds, Fee, starting now.
So this is the God's honest truth. When I was pregnant, I had incredibly vivid dreams, and some of them I really can't mention here on Radio 4. But the one that I would like to tell you about, and I apologise in advance if any of you are of a gentle disposition, it involved John Redwood being my midwife.
Feeling is actually the last thing you want, isn't it?
The kettle is boiling, the waters are breaking. I really can't go. Well,
I think
Victoria Falls.
Is he a chum of yours?
Of course, he's a good personal friend.
Is he?
Lovely.
Did he deliver your children?
While singing the national anthem in Welsh, yes.
I think, in order to be fair to everybody concerned, Giles, I will give you now the benefit of the doubt, as I took it away from you before, and say you've got 30 seconds now to tell us a dream I've never told anyone about, starting now.
This has to be the same dream, because otherwise I would be deviating, and I do not intend to do that. So there I am with Cammy, as I like to call her, and we are recreating in my dream the film Brief Encounter, made in black and white in 1945. She is playing the role of Celia Johnson, and I am there as Trevor Howard. We meet upon the train,
Paul
and
Charles.
then...
I don't feel very well. The same as you. Oh, the same as Fee.
It's
Right, yeah.
squeezy.
Yeah, it's going to queasy, just the very idea
Yeah,
of it.
I know. I mean, but it could be the dream he hasn't told anyone about.
Kissing Camilla under the station clock, I really did.
And no, I've been dishing out benefits of the doubt. Fee's had one, you've had one. I'm going to give Paul one now, because I'd like to hear from him on the subject. Paul, 3 seconds still available. A dream I've never told anyone about, starting now.
Prince Charles, Michael Bentine, the underground station between...
Well, it's been a wonderful, hilarious show and a lot of coughing as well. But let me tell you the final score. Fee Glover, who hasn't played it very often before, came and finished in a magnificent 4th place. She was a few points behind Tony Hawkes, who was 2 points behind Giles Brandreth, and he was 3 or 4 points behind Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, you are our winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Fee Glover, Giles Brandreth and Tony Hawkes. I think Trudy Stevens, who's helped me with the score, she's blown a whistle with great style. And we're indebted to our audience here in the Radio Theatre. We're deeply indebted to our producer, to Lucia Galani, and we're more than indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And so from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the audience and the team, thank you, and tune in again the same time next week when we play Just a Minute!
And Nicholas Parsons and Just a Minute return at the same time next week with guests Alun Cochrane, Rebecca Front, Russell Kane and Paul Merton.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Nicholas Parsons. And as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, dynamic, talented performers who are going to show their skill with words as they speak for just a minute on a subject I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Alun Cochrane, and seated on my left, Russell Kane and Rebecca Front. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me is Trudy Stevens, and she's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, Dickensian London. That's the subject I have here. Can you talk on it for 60 seconds or less, if you can, starting now?
By a strange coincidence, a couple of nights ago, I watched Scrooge, the film starring Alistair Sim that was based on Charles Dickens' story, A Christmas Carol. And what a wonderful movie that is. The Dickensian streets, the hidden doorways, grimy windows, beautifully captured in monochrome filming dated approximately 1951. And his performance as the central character is superb. Bah, humbug, he says, before the first of the spirits visit him and take him back through his life. And he sees there was a detour that he might have taken where he could have been the chairman of Just a Minute if only he turned up for the auditions on time. But unfortunately, this was the 1860s and public transport wasn't as readily available as it is now. Nicholas Parsons went there on his penny-farthing bicycle. This scene was captured and drawn by Fizz, the illustrated cartoonist who worked with Dickens the whole time.
Oh, Russell, you've challenged.
Repetition of Dickens.
Yes.
Yes, and Chris Dickensian.
Sorry,
And
please.
Paul, you went for 55 seconds. There's only 5 seconds to go. And I have to tell the listeners, by the way, people think, oh, he must have known that. And doesn't know, because we don't have a big clock on the stage. He was listening, and he got a repeating of Dickens. Right, so there are 5 seconds for you, Russell, to take over the subject, get a point for a correct challenge. Paul's done all the work, but he gets nothing for it. Dickensian London, starting now.
If only we could revisit Dickensian London. Well, you can, in a way. Simply travel down the A127 to Southend.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Russell, and he's got naturally 2. In fact, he's the only one to have scored at the end of the round. But Russell, we'd like you to begin the next round.
Oh, no.
Lovely subject. Chocolate. Would you talk on the subject of chocolate? 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
Chocolate is a thing about which people are passionate. In fact, I think we can be broken into 2 groups, the sweet and the savoury. Generally, the people who are...
Rebecca, challenge.
People.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Repetition of people. Well, listen, my darling, you've got in very rapidly there, and there are 50 seconds still available.
Oh, now I've got to say something now,
Yes.
haven't I? Oh, dear,
I'm sure
me and
you
my
can,
big mouth.
Rebecca. You've got such a wonderful comedy track record. 50 seconds on chocolate.
No pressure.
Starting now.
I am a very big fan of chocolate, and there is a particular kind of chocolate that's on the market at the moment, which is sold with one great benefit, and I'm told that the marvellous thing about this chocolate is that you only need to have 1 square of it in order to really feel the joy and love that comes from that particular foodstuff. Now, that seems to me to defeat the entire object. Why on earth would you want to spend a very large amount of money buying a bar of chocolate of which you are only going to eat 1 particular bit?
So, Paul, you challenge first.
A repetition of 1.
Yes, 1
Was
particular
it only
one.
that? I thought there were about 5 words already.
You did very
I
well.
thought it
You
was
went from 50
a
to
fantastic first foray, though, didn't you, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you, you
So that
patronising
should give you
swine.
confidence to burst forth for the rest of the show. 17 seconds are still available. Paul, tell us something about chocolate starting now.
It was the Aztec Incas that worshipped chocolate. Kit Kat was a god to them. In their days, they used to look up at these magnificent mountains of silver foil which they had accumulated over the years, and from this magnificent edifice there was a top...
Alun, you challenge.
Repetition of magnificent.
Oh, yes.
It was too magnificent.
Yeah, I used to be
Yeah.
good at this.
Yes.
It's terrible to see the
Yes,
decline, I'm
yes, it
sorry.
is. Alan, you've gone in cleverly with only 4 seconds to go. And the subject is still chocolate, starting now.
As I am a ray of sunshine in many people's life, chocolate is one of those things that...
So, Alan Cochrane was speaking then as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's got 2, Russell's got 2, Rebecca's got 1, Paul's got 1. Isn't it exciting? Right, Alan, it's with you to begin now. And the subject is discovering my roots. Can you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
As the owner of a keen, long, flowing, shoulder-length head of blonde hair, discovering my roots was one of the most problematic moments of my recent life. And not only that, I was undercover as a spy, and nobody wants to be given away by not having put in the peroxide, do they? I spent a lot of my life as a double agent, and it's not good fun, let me tell you. I think I might have been...
Alan, Alan, it's fatal if you make yourself laugh in this game.
Yeah. I'm assuming they'll come on board eventually.
So, Paul, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Yes, indeed. Right. Discovering my roots, Paul, and there are 33 seconds still available, starting now.
Apparently on my mother's side, I'm related to the Kennedys. One got shot in 1963 and the other in about 5 years later. And I don't want to really get involved because it seems to me if they've knocked two of them off, they might be looking for more. So if I am related to that American dynasty in politics, I would rather keep it quiet. But have I mentioned it on the radio? This I have. Now, discovering my roots, I went all the way back to my father. He used to live next door to me. He was a very nice man, but quite distant. He insisted that I called him the man who lives next door. I can't guess what he did.
Russell, you challenge first.
It was an assassination. Him being a Kennedy. I had to strike him down with a...
So what is your actual challenge when the rules are different?
repetition of man.
Yes.
Oh, a man, yes. Right. I thought you said repetition of Kennedy, but no. And again, you've got in with 5 seconds to go.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good.
Ooh. 5 seconds. Discovering my roots. Russell, starting now.
A few years ago, I said to my mum, I'm going to research my roots, and she started to look very nervous because it soon became apparent...
So Russell Kane was then speaking as a whistle when again that extra point. He's now equal with Paul Merton in the lead, and then it's Alun Cochrane and Rebecca Front in that order. Paul, we're back with you to begin, and the subject now, a double bill. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I like to experiment with animals. Back home, I have a duck with 2 heads. That's right, a double bill. I took it along to the vet and I said, excuse me, do you think what I've done to this particular creature is something that you would recommend? He said, this is an aberration. You are following in the footsteps of Dr. Frankenstein, who thought it was man's place to meddle with nature. So my duck with 2 heads I was given back.
Russell challenge.
Repetition of duck?
Duck with 2 heads.
What's the subject?
Double bill.
I must write these down, actually.
So, Russell, you got the subject, a double bill.
Oh,
37 seconds are still available, starting now.
I'll never forget the time I saw William Shatner playing both Macbeth and Hamlet. It was a double bill that I most enjoyed, it being Shakespeare and that man himself. You can't beat seeing the captain of Star Trek get his teeth.
Rebecca challenge.
Well, there was Star Trek, which I think was a deviation, but a bit of a hesitation, I think, as well.
I think it's Star Trek.
I think it might have been an estuary vowel, and that's racism.
Excuse me, I'm from Essex too, so...
No, I think it was a trip of the tongue.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to play
Rebecca
the class
was
card.
listening very well. She's sitting right...
budget science fiction programme, isn't it?
Yes, Star Trek.
She was slightly beside you, so I think she was well able
it's
to
a fair
judge whether it
challenge.
was. And Rebecca, you've got 24 seconds. You tell us something about a double bill starting now.
I remember going to see a double bill of films when I was a student and thinking that this was the most extraordinary way to spend an evening because you could...
Alan, challenge.
It wasn't William Shatner playing Hamlet. Because I've heard about that show.
Star Trek. It's fantastic.
Star Trek, yeah. I've no real interruption. I was just trying to be a little witty. Sorry.
I don't think it was quite enough to give you a bonus point.
I agree.
And Rebecca, you were interrupted, so you get a point for an incorrect challenge, and you still have 16 seconds, a double bill starting now.
Which seemed to me a marvellous way to spend an evening. Now it strikes me as one of the worst possible events that I could put myself through, because I find it a struggle just to stay awake through one film, let alone a double bill. So I'm fairly sure that if I had to sit through Star Trek with William Shatner, I would in fact be snoring.
So Rebecca Front was then speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point, and she has moved forward. Not very far, but she's moved. No, she's equal now with Paul Merton. They're in second place behind Russell, who's 1 point ahead of them only, and Alan's bringing up the rear magnificently. And Russell, it's your turn to begin. And the subject, how to start a revolution. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
How to start a revolution in the United Kingdom, even more so in England. It's difficult and different to everywhere else in the world. Every other place on the planet...
Rebecca challenge?
I think that was a hesitation.
I think it was too.
What?
It was teetering
It was a Nortonian extension of my word.
It could have been that as well.
It was, but it was a debatable point, but she's never played the game before,
Okay,
so I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. And you know, if I can always redress the balance and give you the benefit later on, I will do that, Russell.
I'm glad I've got a
But,
doubts credit.
right. So, Rebecca, 51 seconds. Tell us something about how to start a revolution starting now.
It's a well-known fact that revolutions start with the middle classes, so therefore if you want to start a revolution, you simply put up the price of polenta. Now, the question shouldn't really have gone to this Russell. It should, of course, have gone to Russell Brand, who is the current...
Russell.
Repetition of Russell.
That's right. So you see you're back in very rapidly, Russell. And you have 37 seconds. Another point, of course, how to start a revolution starting now.
I would argue how to start a revolution comes more down to where we are, provenance. You go somewhere warm and sunny, you give out a big political idea, things kick off. Here, it needs to be as tiny as possible. It needs to be something that...
Alun, challenge.
Repetition of it needs to
It
be.
needs to be,
I was getting
yes.
on like a revolutionary fervour and I
I
forgot.
know you were.
Lovely rhetoric.
I dropped into rhetoric.
If the listeners could have seen that, they'd have really seen animation there, of really driving them forward. And half this audience was on their feet ready to follow him somewhere. I don't think they knew where they were going, but they were prepared to follow.
Southend.
Right, Alan, 24 seconds available. How to start a revolution, starting now.
As a keen student of history, I can tell you that the way to begin a revolution is to be shot or killed in some other way and then have people get very agitated and upset about it, and then they will march on a place who will then not do enough.
Rebecca.
There was a bit of a hesitation again that I was
thought it was
picking
an
up on.
estuary vowel, but I might be wrong.
We can't keep playing that card, right. So, Rebecca, another correct challenge. 8 seconds still available. How to start a revolution, starting now.
From what I remember of my O-level history, the French Revolution began with people... That's a hesitation.
Paul challenge.
A hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Big one.
And, Paul, this time you've got in with only 2 seconds to go. Ooh, yeah. It is exciting, isn't it? How to start a revolution, Paul. 2 seconds, starting now.
Crossrail is going underneath us, and you can't build a tunnel without a revolution.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and it's an interesting situation if you're interested in the points, and that is Paul Merton, Russell Kane and Rebecca Front are all equal in the lead with 6 points. Alan's bringing up the rear behind them. And Rebecca, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is the Femme Fatale. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
I like to think that I am something of a femme fatale. I'm fairly sure of this because my husband often says that I will be the death of him. Femme fatale, of course, is a phrase from the French which means a deadly woman. And some people interpret it as being a somewhat misogynistic kind of a term, in that it tends to relate to the idea of women being witches and evil and somehow bringing about horrible revenge on their menfolk. I don't know if any of that is true. And I'm not convinced that there are such things as femme fatale anymore. Part of my reasoning is that to be a femme fatale, you have to keep certain things back. You have to be secretive. And these days, we're not very good at doing that. Everything we do and everything we say is everything.
Yes, Paul Challenge.
Repetition of everything.
Everything, yes.
Yeah.
But you kept going magnificently. And there were 15 seconds still available, though, Paul. Tell us something about the Femme Fatale starting now.
As I crossed the Gobi Desert towards the right, I saw a mythical figure coming towards me. At first, I thought it was a femme fatale, but as I looked at the feminine shape, the curves, the eyes, the hither look, I realised I was dealing with something even more terrible. It was...
So Paul Merton was again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and he's crept into the lead 2 ahead of all the others. And Alun Cochrane, it's your turn to begin. Bread or toast? Take it in whichever way you want, but you have 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
Bread or toast, she said to me, and I knew she was a fellow spy. It was a wonderful moment because I'd been looking for her from before my hair went white, and I looked and I enjoyed the...
Russell, you challenge.
Oh, there was a hesitation there, sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
he repeated looked. Right. You've got 49 seconds, Russell. Bread or toast, starting now.
Bread or toast? We look down and we try to decide whether it is bread or toast. But what of the in-between, the slightly grilled? We never ever remember the bread that's fallen halfway between toast and bread. Yeah.
Alan challenge.
I think there was a repetition of between. I think he said, what about the ones that's between?
Yes,
and then he said,
you're
we
right.
look between.
Well, listen, Alan. So bread or toast is back with you, Alun. And there are 35 seconds available, starting now.
Bread or toast is the great sausage sandwich debate. If I'm not mistaken, you have to think, is it going to soak up the brown sauce more if it's been grilled to the point of brownness? Or is it going to...
Rebecca.
That was, oh, you know what, I blew it. You said brownness. I was too quick on the trigger there. I'll just leave now, shall I? I'll just go.
I think you'll find, Rebecca, we've reached the stage in the evening where Cochrane's got his eye in.
It's taken long enough.
I thought it might not happen.
And, Rebecca, those are the tricks that the regular players are up to, and I'm sorry, it was an incorrect challenge. So, Alun, another point to you. You're still on bread and toast, and they're not on it, but you've got the subject of it. And 23 seconds starting now.
Bread or toast was the original working of the Welsh national anthem, and then they changed it and went for bread of heaven because it seemed to make more sense according to the rest of the rhyme and the way that nation spends its time. Anyway, I personally favour toast when it's a bacon snack.
Paul, you challenge.
Dramatic pause.
Yes, yes, but unfortunately it loses a subject. And there are 5 seconds still available, Paul, on bread or toast starting.
I'm as disappointed as you are, to be honest.
Bread or toast, 5 seconds, Paul, starting now.
As I looked at the two pieces of food in front of me, the bread or the toast, I realised only one.
So once again, Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle when he gained that extra point. He's increased his lead, but only marginally. He's 3 ahead of Russell Kane and 4 ahead of Rebecca Front and 5 ahead of Alun Cochrane. It's all terribly exciting, isn't it? You couldn't care less. Right. Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now, interesting one. Previously on Just a Minute, ... You don't have to say ... That's not part of it.
No, OK.
It's just previously on Just a Minute. Can you talk on that subject? 60 seconds, starting now.
Previously on Just a Minute, you've heard Nicholas Parsons, Russell Kane, Rebecca Front, Alun Cochrane, Paul Merton, Sir Clement Freud, Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Peter Jones, Tony Hawkes, Jenny Eclair, Graham Norton, Julian Clary. I'm bound to forget somebody.
Russell, you challenge first.
Bound to forget someone.
There was a hesitation
There
there,
was
I'm
a
afraid.
hesitation, yes. I mean, we used to have Clement Freud, who was very clever at listing, and we had also had a player who hated him listing. And it's actually very difficult to do, as you just heard with Paul. And he slipped up, and Russell got in first. 47 seconds are still available. Previously, on Just a Minute, Russell, starting now.
Previously on Just a Minute, Nicholas Parsons, every single time, for many, many...
It's one of those easy things to do.
I was going to eulogise and be lovely then.
Right, Paul, you got in with you?
It was repetition.
Many, yes, right. 42 seconds still
Followed by a
available.
twitch.
Previously on Just a Minute, starting now.
When the programme began in 1967, it had been devised by Ian Messiter, who had come up with the idea while a schoolboy looking out of the window. The master said to him, OK, tell me what I've been talking about for the last minute to the class about hesitation, repetition or deviation. And it struck the young 14-year-old boy this one day would be a programme perhaps that would work very well on the radio, and so it is trusted out to be. It is one of the most glorious shows to do. I absolutely love it.
Alun?
Yeah, he was overcome with love for just a minute. And, it
So we
led
call
to
it hesitation. Alun,
yeah.
there are 16 seconds for you. Previously on Just a Minute, starting now.
There have been some strange panels on Just a Minute. Dolph Lundgren, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger with a guest performance...
Paul challenge.
Couldn't they get Arnold Schwarzenegger? They got Arnold Schwarzenegger. Different bloke.
Yeah, I think
They
I was
didn't have either
hesitating
Schwarzenegger
somewhat.
or Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, exactly.
None of them in Just a Minute.
No, didn't they?
No.
Oh, you weren't there for that series. We told you weren't doing it. Hesitation.
Hesitation, right. 8 seconds still with you, Paul. Not with you, but back to you. Previously on Just a Minute, starting now.
And as the clock ticks away at seconds from 1 through to 60, let's count them individually.
Russell,
A repetition of 60 from the first time you were talking.
oh, yes.
1960s.
No, you said he was on the bus and he had to describe what the master had said in 60 seconds.
Yes, you did.
Did I?
Yes. Well, listen.
Maybe.
Are we entirely sure about this?
I have no memory and no confidence, so no.
I'm sure I did.
I said I'd give you the benefit of the doubt.
There it
If
is.
it came up, you've got it this time.
It might just be a doubt benefit, so it works out anyway.
And you've got 2 seconds to go. Previously on Just a Minute, Russell starting now.
Previously on Just a Minute, we've had fast speakers, slow talkers.
So Russell Kane was speaking as the whistle when and gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's 2 behind Paul Merton and a few more ahead of Rebecca Front and Alun Cochrane, who are equal in 3rd place. And Russell, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is lame ducks. Tell us something about that subject in this game, if you can, starting now.
Rather than speculate on why I might have been given the topic of lame duck, let's turn our attention away from horses, donkeys, and other animals that are usually suffering from lameness to consider the plight of the lame duck. Duck hooves have never... Sorry.
Alan, challenge.
Repetition of duck.
Oh, yes, because the subject is lame ducks.
Yes.
Well, listen, Alan.
That was cool.
That is hardcore, Alan. That is hardcore.
But it saved us all from duck hooves, so let's thank Alan.
Yeah, but he's training a bit, darling, so it's really going to be...
Oh, I'm impressed. Don't get me wrong. I'm really impressed. I mean, I'm actually slightly excited by that.
You excited me just then, but... Alan. Sex on the radio, isn't it fun?
Was that what that was?
I've got a feeling they might not have been blue Smarties, Nicholas.
46 seconds are still available, Alan. Lame ducks starting now.
Lame ducks are what any Australian would consider to be ducks, because when they look at them, they would go, these ducks are lame, mate, because that's what they call everything that isn't especially good. But actually, a lame duck is one that can't walk properly, and that is a shame. They should be helped through life by giving them extra parking spaces and helping them into buildings, perhaps a special wheelchair, in order for them to not have to waddle around quite so much. Lame ducks was actually my password when I was a spy in order to get into my computer, which was extremely encrypted, but I just used...
Paul, your challenge.
Hesitation.
There definitely was an
I did say,
definitely.
that's one of my giveaways.
I think you could have had him for deviation at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, that was absolute rubbish. Right. You did hesitate. 8 seconds, Paul. Lame ducks starting now.
I heard the sound of 2 webbed feet and a cane hitting the wooden floor. I knew this would be the time when me and the big duck would have our face down. He looks at me,
So Paul Merton was again speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point. And we're moving into the final round. So I'll give you the score as you move into the final round. Rebecca Front has not played the game before. She's doing extremely well. She's in a very strong 4th place. But she's only 1 point behind Alun Cochrane, she's only 3 or 4 points behind Russell Kane. But out in the lead, ahead of them all, is Paul Merton. And Rebecca, it's actually your turn to begin. Oh, a lovely subject. Trolls. Tell us something about trolls in this game starting now.
There are several different types of trolls. There are internet trolls, which is a whole new breed of being who are enabled to be absolutely vile to other people through the medium of social networking, and they will use this in order to access people and tell them horrible, vile things about themselves.
Russell, challenge.
Although I agree, it is a repetition of vile, I believe.
Yes. 43 seconds are available for you, Russell, on trolls starting now.
It's so hard to ignore internet trolls. You try, but their words get...
Paul, challenge.
It's easy. Don't go on the internet.
I suppose for that round of applause for your comment, I have to give you a bonus point for that.
Thank you very
enjoyed
much.
it so much. But it was an incorrect challenge.
Yes, OK.
So, Rebecca, Russell, you still have the subject.
That was like a remix, then.
I know, there it is. Another point to you. Trolls is with you. 38 seconds starting now.
Very difficult for the technologically addicted to avoid this hate and...
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of avoid.
Yes, you talked about avoiding them before. And Paul, you're in there with 32 seconds to go on trolls starting now.
The wooden bridge had been swept away by the storm, but I was still determined to make my way over to Milton Keynes. As I crossed the river, I noticed a grim little presence underneath a rock. I noticed a blazer...
Alan, you challenge him.
Good time to stop me, actually.
Repetition of notice.
That's
Absolutely.
right, Alan. You've got him there with 20 seconds to go on Trolls starting now.
Trolls live under bridges and on the internet, apparently, but I've never met either of those types of trolls. I spend my time mainly looking at...
Rebecca,
I
challenge.
think it was a fractional hesitation, but I may have been being a little bit
Yes, darling, you are.
overzealous.
We love keenness.
I
but
was over keen.
I would love to be
and we all
generous
know what
to you on
happens
that
when you
one,
try
but,
too hard.
I can't. So, Alan, a point for an incorrect challenge. 10 seconds, Alan, starting now.
Pass us trolls is what somebody in Yorkshire would say when asking for the barm cakes to be handed to them, meaning pass me the rolls.
Russell, challenge.
Repetition of pass?
Yeah.
Russell, you've got him with 2 seconds to go, and it's still Trolls starting now.
I'm in the garden with my girlfriend.
Alan, challenge.
He's not.
It was a quote.
I'm not having that.
I think we have to accept, Alan, that he was using that phrase as part of his speech. But as the audience enjoyed it so much, I'll give you a bonus point. And you've got 1 second to go, Russell, on Trolls starting now.
Trolls come in all different shapes.
Right, I'll give you the final score then. Rebecca Front, who's not played the game before, but she gave such magnificent value. She finished up in a wonderful 4th place. Then in 3rd place, it was Alun Cochrane. He came 5 points behind Russell Kane, who had a wonderful last surge like that, but he didn't quite catch up with Paul Merton, who was 1 point ahead. So we say, once again, Paul, you are the winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game. Paul Merton, Alun Cochrane, Russell Kane and Rebecca Front. I thank Trudy Stevens, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle with great style and aplomb. We thank our producer, Talusha Gilani. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're very grateful to this lovely audience here. Thank you for cheering us on our way. From our audience, from the team, from me, Nicholas Parsons. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 talented, exciting performers who are going to play Just a Minute, as they speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock, and seated on my left, Josie Lawrence and Richard Herring. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me it's Trudy Stevens, who's going to help me keep a score and blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Ah, Paul, it's almost topical. Hot cross buns. Tell us something about that subject. In this game, starting now.
Well, seeing as we're so close to Easter, the subject of hot cross buns is one that's very uppermost in many of our minds. The cross, of course, is symbolic of the cross, and the hot bit and the bun is also very important. The hot cross bun was first invented by Florence Nightingale on a visit to Sweden in 1862. She was appearing as a support act for Nicholas Parsons' one-man show when she suddenly realised that she needed sustenance before the theatre break. So she looked out of the window and there was a hot cross bun salesman. He was shouting the old street cry, "Get your hot cross buns here, lady and gentlemen," he said. And suddenly she realised the pang of hunger in her stomach was enough. She had to grab this bun. She didn't care if it was hot anymore. She didn't even care if it was content. I've said care 3 times. And I don't care, that's 4.
Yeah, but they enjoyed it so much, Paul. They held back sportingly. But, Josie, you challenge them.
Sorry, I could have let it go on,
no.
but I didn't.
No.
That is good, though. I never knew that about Florence Nightingale.
Neither did she.
No. Josie, you've got a point for a correct challenge, and there are 13 seconds still available. Tell us something about hot cross buns starting now.
Hot cross buns, hot cross buns, 1 for a penny, 2 for the same price. Hot cross.
Sheila challenge.
It isn't 1 for a penny, it's 1 a penny.
Yes, but I wasn't singing it, I was simply saying it. So I was doing it conversely instead of singing it.
Conversationally.
Yeah, but I think what
I was
Josie
doing
was
it conversationally.
Conversationally. She was saying it conversationally.
Another deviation.
No, I think I was in the right, Nicholas.
I think you were in the right because you were giving your version of it.
I was doing my version of
Yeah,
it.
right, yes. But so I have to make a decision. You had the benefit of the doubt, Josie. And if I can redress the balance later, Sheila, I'll make sure that you get a benefit later on. I don't see...
Promises. For the last 40 years he's been promising that.
Has he? 40 years, has he?
Josie, there's 7 seconds available still.
Is there?
Hot cross buns starting now.
I must be one of the few people that really like my hot cross buns cold, especially if there's lots of raisins and...
So you're not...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Josie Lawrence, and she's the only one to score any points. Sheila, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is how to win an argument with a teenager. Well, it's amused the audience, the idea. Can you talk on the subject? 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
It's funny thing, but today I was with my daughter, eldest one, and she was having the most dreadful argument with her teenager. And I loved every minute of it because it reminded me that that was exactly what I went through with her. And you're on a losing wicket, I'll tell you. You have to choose the arguments that you want to win and those you can afford to lose. Only the important things do you continue with, and that's part of the kids' training because they have to learn limits and to live on their own conscience. However, sometimes you have to put your foot down or they might die because there are so many horrible things going on in the world. I do remember my husband when she arrived wearing a goth look with black hair and white face, lots of safety pins, saying, "You're not going out looking like that, are you?" And she said,
We haven't had that
Well,
for
you're just being kind because
No.
That's the
You were
first
being
time
very,
I've
very
ever
clever
done
and
that.
very interesting. And
Unbelievable.
we haven't had that for quite a long time in this show.
Goodness gracious.
What I meant to say, we haven't had someone take the subject and go for full 60 seconds without being interrupted, which is what you did, Sheila. You kept going to the whistle when you gain a point for doing that, and you were not interrupted, so you get 2 points at the end of that round.
Am I winning?
No, you're in second place now. But you're only 1 point behind Josie. The other two of you aren't to get in points yet. Richard Herring, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject, like clockwork. Tell us something about that strange subject in this game starting now.
Like clockwork? I love clockwork. What's not to like about clockwork? You get a clock, you take off the face, you prise off the back of the clock with maybe some kind of knife or something like that, and look inside all that wonderful clockwork, the cogs spinning round. I think there's a mainspring in there of some kind. There's all sorts of different things. I can't even begin to name all of them. Some of them have a pendulum, don't they? A grandfather clock that has...
Josie challenge.
So you said clock about 3 times
It's in
now.
the title, it
No,
depends.
clockwork is in the title.
Well, it could be clockwork, like clockwork.
No, it says like clockwork. We'll try.
Don't you worry, Josie.
Well,
Lawrence.
well,
I've been very nice up to now. The gloves are coming off.
Richard, you're always very nice, otherwise we wouldn't ask you back. Josie, correct challenge. 36 seconds are still available. Like clockwork, starting now.
Well, like Richard, I also like clockwork because I hate this sort of digital techno age. I love springs and cogs, and this watch that I'm working actually only works when I've got it.
Oh, no.
No. We didn't hear that.
I thought you said work, but you said work and works.
That's right, yes. It's a thing we do in just a minute, right. So, she's got 23 seconds available, like clockwork, starting now.
Another reason I like clockwork is because of all the beautiful objects I have in my house that run on clockwork. Magic!
Paul challenge.
Was a hesitation.
That was a hesitation, yes.
It was.
So, Paul, you've got 15 seconds still. Like clockwork, starting now.
As I watch the second hand move across the face, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Oh, Paul, you deserve that bonus point for speaking as the whistle went.
Lucky you didn't get beyond 12, that's what I'm saying.
So at the end of that round, Paul, Merton, Sheila, Hancock equal in second place. Richard's yet to score, and Josie and Lawrence is still in the lead. And Josie, we'd like you to begin the next round. Ooh, a lovely subject. Cheese. Tell us something about cheese in this game, starting now.
I adore cheese. Even saying the word cheese puts a smile on my face. When I was young, I wanted...
Paul, challenge.
Deviation, you're not smiling.
No, you can't take me for that. I was smiling inwardly.
Smiling inwardly?
But being pedantic.
But, Paul, if we were to demonstrate what we're talking about,
yes,
then it wouldn't be radio.
No,
it would be television.
Yeah.
And look, even saying the word cheese, see? I smiled. Cheese.
No, you didn't.
Yes,
No, you didn't.
Paul, you're trying very hard. It's not fair, no.
No.
Because she was talking about cheese.
Yes, she
She
was.
doesn't have to demonstrate
And the thing is,
what
no,
she's
she
talking
doesn't,
about.
no.
And so it was an incorrect challenge, Josie.
Yes.
You've still got the subject, which is cheese.
Yeah.
53 seconds, Josie, starting now.
I love all kinds of cheese. Mozzarella, feta, camembert. Love to get my mouth full of stink.
Sheila, challenge.
I said love.
Not before time.
No, absolutely.
And so, Sheila, a correct challenge. And you're 45 seconds still available. You tell us something about cheese starting now.
I think one of my favourites is Stilton cheese. If you have it with a glass of port and a few pickled walnuts. My husband had a very northern father who used to use the phrase, "Oh, no, not for me," constantly. And one Christmas, we gave him a little bit of this said cheese.
Richard, you
A
challenged.
little hesitation there before
There was
cheese.
a little hesitation,
I'm afraid.
yes. So, Richard, you've got in on cheese. 25 seconds are available, starting now.
I come from Cheddar in Somerset, which I consider to be the king of the cheeses, though that cheese is not made in the town, or at least only in one place now up the gorge. It was just named for this place that used to be called Chedzoy, but then changed its name. And you can go up the gorge and you can...
Not twice, you can't.
No. I was so pleased with myself for getting the word Chedzoy in.
What was that lovely word you used?
Chedzoy, it's the old medieval name for cheddar.
Oh, right.
Is it?
And, Paul, you had a correct challenge.
Repetition of gorge, yes.
Yes, right. And 8 seconds are available. Cheese with you, Paul, starting now.
I don't know what it is about saying the word cheese, but it just makes me want to projectile vomit.
Josie, you challenged.
He was being sarcastic and taking the mick out of me. He was taking the mick.
I was demonstrating, talking about cheese with a huge smile on my face. In tribute.
I give you a bonus point because we enjoyed your interruption.
Oh, listen, come on. What do you get? This is outrageous.
Why
Give
not?
her a bonus point for what?
The reaction she got from the audience.
Oh, get away.
And,
That's a new rule. You get a bonus point if the
Well,
audience laughs.
Yeah.
anything to keep it going. Right, Paul, but it was an incorrect challenge, so you still have the subject, and there are 6 seconds available. Cheese starting now.
Cheese is available in psychiatric hospitals. Crackers, nuts. You think of the terms that are used. These are often...
So Paul Merton was then speaking to Whistle Wind, gained the extra point, and we're back with you to begin, Paul. A dangerous place. That's the subject. Talk on it if you can. 60 seconds, starting now.
NASA are very keen on sending a rocket to the second moon of Jupiter, which has a sea which may contain icy water, and they want to send this probe all the way up to this distant planet, and when it lands on the surface, there is a robot submarine that is going to come out of the craft and then start exploring beneath the water of this magnificent solar... What's another word for moon and Jupiter?
Richard, you challenged first.
There was a hesitation.
Yes, there was a definite and 38 seconds are still available. Richard, tell us something about a dangerous place starting now.
A very dangerous place to go can be Cheddar Gorge in Somerset, where I come from. When there's been rain, sometimes the cliffs can start to crumble like cheese and fall down upon anyone there, anyone who's foolish enough to go rock climbing.
Sheila chance.
Anyone.
Anyone.
Hard than it looks, isn't it?
Well, listen, Sheila. Correct challenge, 25 seconds. It's with you, Sheila. A dangerous place starting now.
I never find much places dangerous because I go through life thinking, oh, well, to hell with it, I'll be all right. I was in New York filming once and I had a guidebook that took me all over the place. And I was in the park one day and a policeman on a horse came by and said, no, you can't. Oh, no, I was doing North Country and I was meant to do American then, so...
It was a combination of the two, I thought.
Was it? No, you can't.
We give it to you, Richard, with 5 seconds to go. Ooh. A dangerous place starting now.
A very dangerous place to be is deep in the heart of the sun. It's extremely hot in there and you'll get burnt quite bad.
And we move on to Sheila, who begins the next round. Sheila, French exchange. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game starting now?
I went on a French exchange when I was about 14 and I had the time of my life. It was a revelation in the late 40s after the war. And I had never seen such glamour, olive oil, wine, beautiful women with their hair slicked back into a bun, elegant clothes. Goodness knows why they had it so much better than we did, but I'd left rationing and all sorts of things. I had my first passionate kiss there also. We were by the seaside and there was a band who used to play in the local cafe. And one day Claude walked me home and he gave me this embrace that I will never forget. I judge...
Richard.
There was a hesitation there.
Unfortunately.
It was about the French... It's nearly got into French kissing and French exchanging of fluids. It was a shame to break it up.
And you're so fluent, Sheila. You went for 48 seconds.
Yes.
Oh,
did I?
I love the story. I like the sound of Claude.
Yeah, he was lovely. He was my yardstick for the rest of my life. Nobody
I'm surprised you got close enough to embrace him.
Sheila, Claude has brought you a bonus point there. He brought you other things as well, I'm sure. We won't go into that.
Listen, they were innocent days then. Exactly. It was all different. But he was
I
lovely.
had a French girlfriend.
Really
it wasn't
lovely.
as innocent as all that.
Tell you, he looked like... He looked a bit... You know that Jose Marino, whatever his name is? He looked a bit like him. A younger version of him. Can you imagine? Lovely. I was besotted.
Yeah.
My French girlfriend was called Nicole, and she was absolutely lovely. And I loved the accent, and she talked like that to me. And she said one day to me, do you know, in London, I get so worried about all these buggers. And I said, what? She said, you see them on the street, all these buggers, asking for money. Oh, no. Beggars. Oh, so the buggers are beggars. Richard, we've got 12 seconds still available. French exchange starting now.
My French exchange student was a boy called Nicolas, which caused no end of amusement when he came to Cheddar. He went up the gorge, by the way, had a lovely time up there, eating cheese. It was a fantastic thing. But we went, your name's Nicholas, you idiot.
Oh no,
Josie
wrong,
challenge.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Did he say Nicholas twice?
Nicolas.
No, Nicolas.
Yeah, he did.
Nicolas and Nicolas. I'll take the extra point. I'm very glad.
So you were a bit too keen then, Josie.
As
Because you
always.
got in with half a second to go. An incorrect challenge. You have another point,
Half a
Richard.
second.
Half a second on French exchange starting now.
Sacre bleu!
So Richard Herring was then speaking as the whistle when, gain that extra point. He's equal in the lead with Josie Lawrence, and they're both 2 points ahead of Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock, who are equal in second place. Richard, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is dressing to kill. Talk about that subject, if you can, in this game, starting now.
If you are dressing to kill, you need to wear some gloves, first of all, so you don't get your dabs all over the place. Some kind of plasticated overall, which will cope with any spillage of blood. Even if you're strangling someone, it's always good to make sure whatever you're wearing is wipe-proof, to make sure that no... Thank you for saving me.
Josie?
I was giving a bit too much away, to be honest.
Good bits of advice, good bits of advice.
Yeah,
So what was your challenge when the rules are just a minute,
I've
Josie?
forgotten now, but I know what it was. It was...
Don't help her.
No, it was... what did you just say? Oh, God, this is
You'll
ruined.
remember it when you hear it back at home.
I've forgotten because there was all things going on.
That's
And don't look so worried, darling, because you've got the point. And you've got the
Yes,
subject.
but I can't remember what he said. Sir Richard's quite right. I don't deserve it if I can't remember what it was. He said cheddar gorge, for God's sake.
He always is saying cheddar gorge, so the chances are...
So, Josie,
Repetition.
you have 43 seconds
Oh, Lord, I don't know.
to talk on the subject of dressing to kill, starting now.
Dressing to kill is something that you usually say when you want to impress somebody. Oh, tonight I'm going to dress to kill. But dressing to kill is quite difficult for me because in my wardrobe I have lots of sweatpants, baggy jumpers, nothing that really would inspire a man to get me.
Oh, Paul challenged.
Was there a slight hesitation?
There was a hesitation,
Bit
yes.
slight.
Only slight, but I think you deserve a benefit of the doubt now. And you've got 24 seconds on dressing to kill, starting now.
As I remove the corpse from the back of the car, I realised that my tuxedo was wildly inappropriate.
Sheila, you challenged.
Well, there were a couple of pauses. I know you were
Dramatic.
waiting for the laugh on the second one, but...
Well, I had to wait a long time. I agree. Could have timed that last one on a calendar.
I think he was going at a measured pace,
Measured
Sheila.
pace.
All right.
I don't think he was...
Exactly.
When you hear it back, you'll realise I'm right. There was a long pause.
Well, I can't give retrospective challenges. I will phone you up after I've listened back and say, yes, Sheila, I made a mistake there. You should have had a point. When we meet next, I will give it to you personally, my darling. I've known her for a long time.
You're not Claude, are you? After all these years?
Anyway, Paul, 16 seconds. Dressing to kill, starting now.
The important thing is you must lay your tools out in a way that you can reach them in a quick and immediate...
Sheila challenge.
You're talking rubbish, aren't you?
That's a trade secret.
It doesn't make sense.
I agree with Sheila. It's got nothing to do with dressing to kill.
No.
I mean, you're being too utterly literal.
Yes.
It's to impress.
Oh,
it's
is
not to physically kill somebody.
Oh, that's where I've been going wrong.
Sheila, 11 seconds. Dressing to kill, starting now.
It's so long since I've dressed to kill. Usually I'm...
Richard challenge.
That's just deviation. She's dressed to kill right now, Nicholas. That is ridiculous. Have you seen her boots?
Oh, I think you should give him that point. It's true.
No, Sheila. I'm always very fair. What I do, I will give him a bonus point because we enjoyed it, not only because it was humorous, but also very chivalrous. Because you get a point because you were interrupted, so you keep the subject. So it's very fair, and you have 7 seconds still on dressing to kill, starting now.
I am actually dressed for just a minute. Normally, I dress for comfort with elastic-topped trousers and slippers.
So Sheila Hancock was then speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point. It's a very interesting situation. Josie Lawrence, Richard Herring, Sheila Hancock, they're all equal in first place. And only 1 point ahead of Paul Merton, who's trailing 1 point behind the three leaders. Josie, it's your turn to begin. The subject is 1066. Tell us something about that date we all know about in this game, if you can, starting now.
1066 is a date we all know about in our history classes. Picture the scene. A young messenger arrives in the great hall and said, "Oh, my lord, the man over there, Edward the confessor, has died." "Oh, good," says the important person. "Eddie always confessed that he would give me the crown." No, a man called Will. I would have acted it all out.
Richard, you challenge first.
She said no.
What?
It's a repetition of no.
The first no was French. No.
No, she did seem normal. All her facts were absolutely haywire.
The facts were not good. If you let me take over, I'll tell you all about it.
No.
She's just said no again a third time, and it's taking the mickey.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, Richard, a correct challenge. And you have 10:66, 37 seconds, starting now.
1066 was the year of three kings, Nicholas. There was Edward the Confessor, there was Harold, and finally came William the Conqueror, though some called him the bastard, even his friends. And there was dispute over the throne.
Sheila
An
Hancock.
awful lot of there was.
Yes, there was.
There was.
There was.
So, Sheila, correct challenge, and your 24
I
seconds.
just wanted to get the facts in. That's all I wanted to do. As long as I'm educating the country, that's all that matters.
24 seconds available, Sheila, on 10:66, starting now.
Most of it is depicted in the Bayeux tapestry, which rests in France at the moment, although it was made in Devon by nimble-fingered, lovely... No, it wasn't made in Devon at all, it was made in Kent.
Well, some of our historical facts are getting a bit blurred, as I say. Richard, you challenge first.
There was a hesitation.
Yes, there was.
Yeah.
And there are 12 seconds for you on 10:66, starting now.
Harold's forces stood on Senlac Hill above Hastings, and they had the advantage over the French troops who were below. But stupidly, the French ran away.
Ah, yes, Josie challenge.
Too French.
Yes.
Two French, yes.
Frenchman, I was going to say.
And
I didn't.
Josie, you cleverly got in with 3 seconds to go. And 10:66, starting now.
The Battle of Hastings took place in that... I nearly said Hastings.
So, at the end of that round, Josie was speaking as a whistle, when gained an extra point. She has increased her lead alongside Richard Herring. They're 1 point ahead of Sheila Hancock, and they're 3 points ahead of Paul Merton as we move in to the final round. Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject is camping in Wales. We've got some strange subjects: dressing to kill, 10:66, camping in Wales, 60 seconds, starting now, Paul.
When I first appeared at the Swansea Fringe Festival in 1981, I was camping in the Gower Peninsula, and it was autumn, round about October, I seem to remember. The rain lashed down as I made my way back into the town every night to put on a show in its church hall. And then when the performance was over, we had to go all the way back to the coastline, where the water comes in at you horizontally. It's called the sea. And also, I found the wind was getting up, and deeply on the horizon I saw a ship at first.
Josie challenge.
Sorry, 2 eyesores.
Yes, I saw, yes. You've got in with 31 seconds to go on camping in Wales, starting now.
I don't think it would be possible camping in Wales. First of all, you'd have to find one. Then you'd have to get into its mouth with your rucksack on. Now, the famous person who camped in a whale was Jonah. He was sucked...
Sheila challenge.
I don't think you can say that Jonah was camping in a whale. I mean, seriously. He was eaten by a whale. He didn't have a tent with him and all that, did he?
Well, I always thought if you get eaten, might as well make yourself comfortable. Story of my life.
Yeah, but he couldn't have come back and got a tent and gone back in again.
Yes, you're quite right.
But Sheila, I agree with you with your challenge.
Absolutely.
He wasn't camping inside the whale, Jonah. And 13 seconds are still available for you, Sheila.
How many?
13, that's all.
Bloody hell.
Camping in Wales, starting now.
I think whales are rather camp animals. All that leaping out and twiddling their tails. And if they had hands, they would definitely be going, this is a visual gag. But they smile.
Yes, I should explain why that round of applause, because Sheila demonstrated. She did a visual gag, and she did that with that. She displayed a limp hand to the audience.
It was...
So she got the point. But, Paul, you challenged with half a second to go.
Oh, there was a hesitation on the limp hand.
Yes, yes, it was.
All right, half a second,
Because
Paul.
I thought better of it halfway through.
Not going to make any difference to the final result, but half a second, Paul. Camping in Wales, starting now.
It started all...
Well, I'll give you the final score now. And they all did so well. They're all so close. Paul Merton, for once, came in 4th place, but he was only 1 point behind Sheila Hancock and Richard Herring. And they were 2 points behind Josie Lawrence. So we say, Josie, you are our winner this week. So it only remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul, Merton, Sheila, Hancock, Josie Lawrence and Richard Herring. I thank Trudy Stevens, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here. We're indebted to our producer, to Lucia Galani. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. From me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. And tune in the same time when we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons. And as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, exuberant members of our profession who are going to show their skill and talent with words and language as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Holly Walsh, and seated on my left, Graham Norton and Miles Jupp. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Trudy Stevens, who's going to help me keep the score, and she will blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. So we'll begin with Paul Merton. Oh, Paul, what a lovely subject. The Tempest. Tell us something about The Tempest in this game, starting now.
I went to see a production of The Tempest with Paul Schofield. I don't mean the 2 of us went to see it together. He was in it. And this was the 1970s. It was a school trip organised to take in one of Shakespeare's plays. The female actress in the lead part was wearing a transparent dress. And one of our boys from the class, halfway through the play, shouted out, "Here, you can see right through that," which of course ruined the dramatic tension which the great William had built up to that point. The Tempest has been raging in our aisles for the last few weeks, and hopefully by the time this programme goes out, people will no longer be wading through rivers to get to their back door. It's been an unprecedented series of weather, storms, rain hurtling down from the sky. How we have managed to survive this, those who have lived on the edge of the coast have gone through an enormously difficult time.
Graham's challenge.
This is harsh.
Yeah.
Repetition of through.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yes, yes.
Absolutely.
He had to be stopped, ladies and gentlemen.
I had to be stopped.
And he was listening well. He spotted a repetition of through. Correct challenge, Graham. You get a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject, and there are 12 seconds still available. The Tempest starting now.
What joy! I will now delight you with a selection of abbreviations and...
Paul challenge.
Well, there's a slight hesitation there. Stumbled over his words.
You sort of abbreviated the word abbreviation midway through the word.
No, because that wasn't even the word I was looking for. And I'd gone to the cupboard to find the word quotation, but I walked away with abbreviation with a bit of it broken.
That was an incorrect challenge. You get another point. You've still got 7 seconds if you want it. The Tempest, starting now.
We all know the story of the Tempest, so I won't bore you.
Oh, I don't know it.
Well,
Deviation.
I was sparing your blushes.
Well,
I think you've got 5 seconds to tell me.
Polly, what I'm going to do immediately is, because the audience applauded you for that, and you're the first time on the show, I'm going to give you a bonus point.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And I think her challenge, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt on this one. And tell you, Holly...
Yeah, reward ignorance.
Yes.
That's what's wrong with this country, Nicholas.
A little while ago, you said you could talk nonsense or rubbish.
Well, yes, that's
true. Yes, right, there we are.
I changed my mind.
To be fair, I'm only here because of a BBC quota, so you're...
Darling, you're a great quota. You're the most... She is the most attractive quota we've ever had, I must say that. So you have 4 seconds only, darling. Keep going to the whistle. And the subject is The Tempest, starting now.
The Great Tempest hit South London. People lost their wheelie bins. They lost their barbecue...
So Holly Walsh was then speaking as the whistle went, and in this game, whoever's speaking then gets an extra point. So Holly's got that extra point. In fact, she's in the lead at the end of the first round. Miles, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject is a strange one here. The consequences of excessive politeness. Don't know who thought that up. Sounds rubbish, but that's never inhibited anybody in just a minute. Right. 60 seconds as usual if you want it, starting now.
If you are excessively and unnecessarily polite, you will spend a lot of your life nodding at things that you simply do not agree with, or indeed attending social functions that you have literally no interest in. People say, will you come and speak to us about how marvellous Britain is? And you say, of course, I absolutely love the place. And the next thing you know, you're in Kent being bored to tears by people that are drunk on sherry and accused of various nefarious schemes.
Graham challenge.
I'm saying hesitation.
There was a definite there.
Was it really?
Yes, there definitely was an yes.
Oh.
You're sitting next to him, but you didn't quite pick it up.
Well, I didn't trust my ear, but I trust yours, Nicholas.
Mine are pretty ancient now, but I have to keep my oral antennae absolutely acutely...
Now, you've been told about that before, haven't you? He calls it an antenna, it's not what the rest of us say. Apparently you can pick up Radio 4 Extra on it.
I was trying to think of another way to talk about hearing, but you know, as in just a minute you try to think of different phrases. The consequences of excessive politeness, Graham, starting now.
One of the consequences of excessive politeness is not being very good at this game. Because, of course, if I was excessively polite, I would turn to Miles and say, so sorry for interrupting, and stop speaking.
Paul, you challenged.
Excessive politeness.
Yes. Which we will call hesitation, because you stopped. Right. Paul, you have the subject. 26 seconds available. The consequences of excessive politeness starting now.
The consequences of excessive politeness can perhaps be summed up by the two comedy characters, Claude and Cecil. The first one would say, after you, mentioning the name of the other guy, and the second one would say, ditto the same Claude. There's no point in telling that story, it's completely ruined. I don't know why I picked it in the first place.
Graham has challenged
That's it, I'm glad I'm saying somebody did.
Yeah.
After you, Claude, after you, Cecil, is what I was trying to say.
Graham,
repetition of sane.
Yes, of course.
Oh, yes, everything.
And for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, that was from Itmar back in the 40s.
That's right.
Graham, you had a correct challenge. You have another point. You have 12 seconds. The consequences of excessive politeness starting now.
The consequences of excessive politeness are manifold, ladies and gentlemen. I will now attempt to tell you them without boring you in any way. That would be rude, and I suffer from...
And, right, the next round, this is a lovely subject here, and Holly, we'd like you to start. It's endangered species. You do tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
One of the most endangered species in the entire world is the lesser spotted blue butterfly. Wow, I've absolutely screwed that up.
Miles challenge.
This is my first time doing it.
I know, darling, but you're already in the lead at the end of the first round, so...
If anything, I'm showboating with those two stammers.
Darling, I'll be as generous as I can to a first-time player, but that was such an obvious hesitation that I have to take Miles' challenge. And Miles, you have 53 seconds on endangered species starting now.
This may not be the most politically correct thing to admit, but I absolutely love collecting the corpses of endangered species. My bathroom is positively littered with snake skins and butterflies and lizards and Komodo dragons and tortoises.
Holly, you press.
Did I?
Yes. We don't usually pick up on things like Anne, but he did say Anne 4 times, didn't he?
Yeah,
oh, he did, yeah. He did.
Oh, is that?
Repetition of Anne.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You're basically the equivalent of a performance-enhancing drug in this game, because you're beeping in for me.
Darling, if I'm a drug to you, that's fascinating.
Wait to get the hangover. And that doesn't mean what you think it means.
Paul, you're incorrigible. Holly, you have 37 seconds. Endangered species starting now.
The aforementioned animal that I was describing previously can be found somewhere in the depths of Nicholas Parsons' nostrils, which is an impossible place to penetrate, and you would find it somewhere living amongst the hares, wondering what daylight looked like. It has only ever been seen once, accidentally in a paparazzi shot of up his nose, and that
I don't know why you come on the show for the first time and talk about the parson's nose. Trudy, put me down for a bonus point on that, will you? Miles, you challenged.
There was a slight hesitation. Well, you changed your mind. You said up his, and then suddenly said something else. And I was just intrigued to know what it was, the first word that had flashed up in your head.
Well, she talked about the hairs up my nose, and I don't have any. So that could have been deviation, couldn't it? Mars, you've got the benefit of the doubt, because I gave it to Holly before and I've given it to Graham, and you have 12 seconds on endangered species starting now.
I do an enormous amount of charity work, particularly for those charities who preserve species who are at risk of death and destruction around this once glorious planet of ours. Dogs in certain countries are treated so...
So, Miles Sharp then speaking to the whistle when gained that extra point. And it's a very interesting situation. It's all in ascending order, 1 point separating them all. And it goes up from Paul, Miles, Holly, Graham in that sequence. And by the way, I sometimes get letters from strange people who obviously don't understand this show and say, why don't you pick up Miles? Because he repeated something there. And you repeated, I've forgotten what you repeated, but it was... You repeated something.
I guess that's why, then. That answers that letter, yeah.
Graham, we're going to have you to start the next round. And the subject is, lovely subject, inside the glove compartment of my car. Will you tell us something about what's inside the glove compartment of my car? 60 seconds starting now.
Inside the glove compartment of my car, you will find the various old sandwiches, half-eaten apples, but the most space is taken up by a leather-bound manual telling me how to actually drive my car. There are so many buttons and things in the vehicle which I do not understand, nor am I interested enough to open the glove compartment and find out. There used to be this really good thing where the speed you're driving at was reflected into the windscreen. I enjoyed that very much.
Holly, challenge.
I just don't believe you don't have a chauffeur.
I sometimes do, but I find it very hard to keep them, Holly.
You mean financially or
No,
socially?
they quit. Yeah.
Holly, I think that's a lovely challenge. But it's not true. I'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed it so much. But Graham, it was an incorrect challenge. Because, sometimes you are obviously driven when you go to things. They send a car for you, don't they, the BBC? But I know...
No, they don't, Nicholas. No, they
but
don't.
I do know...
No, they don't, Nicholas.
But I do know that
they don't, Nicholas. No, they don't.
So, Graham, another point. 24 seconds inside the glove compartment of my car, starting now.
Inside the glove compartment of my car, there are... there's nothing I can say now because I've said all the things that might be in it.
Right, Paul challenge.
Well, sort of hesitation.
Yes. Sort of, yes, it is.
Yes.
Doesn't want the subject anymore, I should
Exactly.
Yes, yes. So there are 16 seconds left, Paul, and you have the subject of inside the glove compartment of my car, starting now.
Inside the glove compartment of my car is a blow-up doll, Buxom Betty, endorsed by Nicholas Parsons on YouTube. It's a magnificent treat when you're on a long kiss and dog journey. You can simply get it out, pump it up, and it depends how far you actually put air into it, because if you want to really have a Batrina, as I call her, true.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point. What lovely deviation for which you weren't challenged.
Yes. Available in the shops.
Right, there we are. Because I've been in your car, but I didn't see the doll.
He didn't need it that time.
Everything's on CCTV these days.
Right, well said, Polly, well said. Right. Paul, it's actually your turn to begin.
Right.
And the subject now, a nice historical one. Oliver Cromwell. Tell us something about Oliver Cromwell in this game, starting now.
I went to see the film Oliver Cromwell with Richard Harris. Well, not the two of us together, he happened to be in it. And it wasn't historically very accurate. There were MPs that appeared in 1536 that had been killed some 10 years before. And it was rather ironic that an Irishman should be playing the title lead, given Mr. Cromwell's attitude towards the Irish during the 17th century. One thinks of the sacking of...
Graham, challenge.
Repetition of Irish.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, Irish actor, yes.
Irish actor,
yes,
yes,
absolutely.
and Irish
Really?
people.
Seriously?
Yes, well, yes. Repetition, yes. You could have had him for deviation, but it's too late now.
What was the deviation?
Well, it was in 1653, not 15.
Oh, did I say 15?
Yes.
Nicholas remembers.
Yeah. To be fair, he was doing the warm-up act for Charles I's execution.
And you applaud him for that.
He's still got the bladder on the stick.
Unfortunately, for different reasons these days.
Oh, if I wasn't such a good sport, it wouldn't be such a good show, would it?
Absolutely right.
38 seconds available for you, Graham, on Oliver Cromwell, starting now.
I'm embarrassed to say, ladies and gentlemen, I am at an unfair advantage here because, in fact, I am an expert on Oliver Cromwell. I studied him at length in university and have written several books on the subject. So I don't want to start too heavy on you, but let's get going with some facts and figures about Oliver Cromwell and what he got up to during his life. I suppose the best place to start, really, this is going on more than okay. So I guess the best place to start would be with the amount
Graham,
of time...
I'm sorry, you actually have been challenged.
Oh, have I? Okay.
Miles, you challenged.
I only challenged because you sort of suggested that you felt that you deserved to be challenged, and I was just trying to pick up your slack there, as it were.
So what's your challenge within the rules of just a minute?
But there's probably a deviation there. I suspect that Graham didn't study Oliver Cromwell.
Ask me anything.
I suspect he didn't study Oliver Cromwell in university, or at university, as people who went to university call it.
Not in Ireland! Not in Ireland!
But also, I suspect you haven't written as many books about Oliver Cromwell as you claim to have done. Certainly not published ones.
They haven't been published, all of them.
It's sort of fan fiction, really, isn't it?
No, Miles, I'm giving Graham a benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here, because I don't think he's written all those books on Oliver Cromwell.
It seems a little unlikely, doesn't it?
So you have... Oh, and you've got him with 4 seconds to go.
And we were learning so much.
Oliver Cromwell, Miles, starting now.
There was a checkpoint, Charlie. He didn't crack a smile, and there's no...
Paul challenge.
Well, there was a slight hesitation there.
There was, but what's Checkpoint Charlie got to do with Oliver Cromwell?
Elvis Costello lyrics to Oliver's Army.
It's not my own words.
Oh, right, OK. I'll take your word for it. It's not my generation. Paul, 1 second on Oliver Cromwell, starting now.
Oliver Cromwell, King's Cross.
Right. Good joke. So, Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went, and he's moved forward. He's 1 point behind our leader, Graham Norton, and he's 1 point ahead of Holly Walsh, and 2 points ahead of Miles Jupp, and that's the situation. Right, Miles, it's your turn to begin. The subject is cardigans. Tell us something about cardigans in just a minute, starting now.
I have one of the largest and most extensive and exciting collections of cardigans in the whole of South London. There is a blue one, yellow, orange, grey, puce, Vermeer, tartan...
Vermeer? You've got a Vermeer cardigan?
Yes.
Well, it may not be an original. I mean, it's just...
Must be worth a fair amount.
None of us can prove this either way, so
no,
Miles,
it's right.
you've got the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. You still have cardigans, and you've got 45 seconds starting now.
I first became interested in cardigans on an extremely cold day. I wondered what I could wear that would make me a little warmer, and my mother suggested something called a cardigan. She took one down from the loft where we had been keeping it ever since Vermeer had given it to us.
Paul Janice.
Repetition of Vermeer.
Vermeer, yeah. If I was listening correctly, Vermeer suddenly went from being a colour to a person.
I don't know. You're listening more closely than I am.
Paul, correct challenge. 26 seconds are available. Cardigans starting now.
I looked at the cardigan that had been donated to our family by Salvador Dali in 1934. I pulled on my pair of Picasso underpants, my Tchaikovsky waistcoat, and I wandered down to the shopping centre. People pointed at my cardigan. They said, "There goes a man who knows the value of a jumper that's been adapted into a cardigan. You can button it up. You can undo it. You can do all sorts of things."
Miles challenge.
Repetition of can.
Oh, yes,
yes,
probably.
Yes.
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 The old
You could-
and rule.
You could have had him for cardigan too, because he's repeated that word and the subject is cardigans.
Oh, yes.
Oh, right.
4 seconds back with you, Miles. Cardigans are starting now. Holly, you challenged?
That was a slight
It
hesitation.
was a hesitation, Holly. You've got in with four.
You look really cross about that, Miles.
No, I'm not cross. No.
He's just disappointed.
I think you're playing a very,
Holly, you've
very
got in with...
well-spirited, confident game, Holly. It's nice to see.
We got in again, Holly, with 3 seconds to go. And the subject is cardigans, starting now.
If there is one thing a man looks the most unattractive in, it has to be...
Oh! At the end of that round, Holly was speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point. And now 3 of them are equal in the lead. Holly, Walsh, Graham, Norton and Paul Merton. And they're only 1 point ahead of Miles Jupp. Right. Holly, it's your turn to begin. This is an interesting subject and a very difficult one, I think. Just a minute in different languages. The audience have gone very quiet. That's the subject. Try and do something with it in 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
Of course, the best way for me to attempt to win this round would be to speak in fluent Urdu, do the entire thing without speaking
Darling, I'll give you a bit of advice. Keep going irrespective. Sometimes they can be generous and overlook it. But that time they didn't. Miles challenged first. Miles, yes?
There was what I would call a hesitation.
It was a full stop. 51 seconds. Try and tell us something about Just a Minute in different languages, starting now.
Just a Minute has been recorded in French, Belgian, Flemish, Walloon, Greek, Latin, Italian, Spanish...
Graham challenge.
It has not been done in Latin.
No, when Nicholas first did it was...
My mistake.
Oh, you are... I think I'm only here to be the fall guy. Well, as long as he gets laughs, why not? Though it hasn't been done in Latin. And by the way, another deviation, Belgian isn't a language. They speak Flemish or French there.
I think you're just less well-travelled than me, Nicholas. You ask a Belgian what he speaks, it's Belgian and nothing but.
They speak Flemish or French, and if I'm going to get any letters, I'm sorry, I can't reply to them. Graham, 42 seconds on Just a Minute in different languages, starting now.
Just a minute in different languages, or jusqu'une minute dans des langues différentes. That's French. That's just one of the many languages you could translate the phrase just a minute in different languages into. Now it is a laborious task to do, and yet I'm going to embark on it. I'm going to start with the European languages. Why don't we get going with some of the Romance ones down the south, or maybe Italian or Spanish? I can't decide really where to begin. Oh, perhaps I'll go to... Oh, I've said that twice. Oh, never mind.
Miles, you challenged.
Yeah, I'm only challenging on what it was that you said twice. I honestly hadn't noticed at all, but I just thought, what the hell, it's a competition.
I said something twice.
Yes, it was.
But it was.
Miles, you've got in with 3 seconds to go. On Just a Minute in different languages, starting now.
I would be thoroughly ashamed of myself.
I mean, I was trying it again. If anything, it's repetition on me for doing that twice. That's, I thought I'd try and
You tried
get
it before
in.
and it worked, didn't it?
Yeah, I thought I had a chance.
Because you had a generous chairman.
Yes.
I'm going to be generous
A
again.
generous chairman.
Because you haven't played the game before. 2 seconds, Holly, on Just a Minute in different languages, starting now.
Just a minute.
Miles challenge.
No, sorry, I just want to say good luck, Holly.
But Miles, you also interrupted her, so she gets a point for that. And she still
well.
keeps the subject with 1.5 seconds to go on Just a Minute in different languages, starting now.
Just a minute in different languages.
And I've just had a note to say we're moving into the final round. And as we do, it's all very, very close. Paul Merton is trailing for once in 4th place, but only 1 point behind Miles Jupp and Graham Norton are equal in second place. But out in the lead, 2 points ahead of all the others, is Holly Walsh. First time player. Graham, we're back with you to start, and the subject is boxer shorts. Tell us something about boxer shorts in this game, starting now.
A lot of people don't know, but behind the scenes here at Just a Minute, there's a communal changing room. So I can reveal that 3 people on this panel are wearing boxer shorts, 1 knickers and 1 Spanx. Obviously, I won't embarrass anyone by revealing who they are. Yeah.
Holly, challenge.
Is it double revealing?
Yes, she's right. Curse her in her young ears.
So, Holly, you have 40 seconds on boxer shorts, starting now.
One thing I've never understood about boxer shorts is why there is a slit at the front and yet not one at the back. That makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. As somebody who has never...
Graham, challenge.
Do you really want me to explain that?
I think we could all explain it to you, but I will resist the temptation to demonstrate it. So, Holly, you have another point for incorrect challenge. And 30 seconds on boxer shorts, starting now.
Boxer shorts are not an item of clothing that I have ever worn, I have to say, although I am partial to a pair of wide fronts on a Sunday, or a Monday, or a Tuesday, or a Wednesday, or a...
Paul, challenge.
A lot of oars.
Oh, yes. We can't have too many oars in this show. Paul, correct challenge. 19 seconds still available. Boxer shorts, starting now.
Boxer shorts, Dalmatian socks, whatever the item is, you have to put it on the dog. The best way to go about this is to get a vet on your side and a qualified tailor. I had a boxer dog and a magnificent pair of shorts. I thought to myself, I'm going to squeeze one into the other. I don't care which it is. And then the vet came towards me and he's...
Miles, challenge.
Repetition of vet.
Oh, I couldn't remember if I said vet or veterinary
It was
surgeon.
vet and vets, though.
Vet and vets.
You vet and vets.
Vet and vets.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, were you going to say the vet is, as in so you were apostrophising the I off is? Or...
The dog was apostrophised.
You're not as aggressive there.
Yeah.
Paul, it's not going to make any difference to the result. Everybody else has had a benefit of the doubt. You have your benefit of the doubt now, and you have 2 seconds on boxer shorts, starting now.
As I slowly looked into the maw of the massive hound...
So let me give you the final score. Miles Jupp and Graham Norton, who gave great value as usual, they came equal in third place, just behind Paul Merton. But out in the lead, 2 points ahead of everyone else. It's never happened before. The first-time player of the game is also the winner, Holly Walsh. Well, we do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Holly Walsh, Miles Jupp and Graham Norton. I thank Trudy Stevens, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle with aplomb when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Toulusha Gilani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons and the team, goodbye, and tune in again the same time when we play Just a Minute. Yes.